Hey mama, you're listening to the Resting in Motherhood podcast with your host and new motherhood BFF, Brittni Maya. I'm a certified infant sleep specialist, but more importantly, I'm a mama navigating my own motherhood journey right alongside you. So join me weekly as we discuss the real, raw, and relatable truths of motherhood. We'll touch on everything from the ugly and difficult things we think but are afraid to say out loud, to the beautiful moments that uplift us and bring us so much joy in motherhood. So go ahead, take a deep breath, embrace the chaos, and join me for heartwarming conversations that'll leave you feeling understood, inspired, and ready to tackle whatever motherhood throws your way. Resting in Motherhood podcast community. How are you today? How's your week going? How are you feeling? I have to admit that I have been putting off recording this episode because it's just a very emotional episode. It's one that feels hard to share, but it's also the right path forward. I know it is. So you're probably like, what are you even talking about? So without keeping you guessing any longer, I'm just going to dive right in. But first, as I start every single episode, I want to share with you how I am currently finding rest in motherhood. And how I am currently finding rest in motherhood right now is really just surrendering, slowing down, and trusting. And that's in so many different aspects of my life. For example, we're in December, a very busy time for all of us. And I, if you haven't seen, launched my new business coaching business. And also, like on the personal front, Lila's dad usually has her on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but for this whole month, he has to work 6 days a week, which means that I now have one less child-free day. So I have 2 days to fit all of my work in and just be a human, right? So it's busy. And so I'm really just giving myself grace and just trusting in the timing, trusting in the process of everything. Not trying to do too much, dropping balls. As you know, that is something that I am very keen on, is not trying to take on too much. And so that is how I'm currently finding rest, and just not rushing and telling myself like I'm right on time. I don't need to rush. I don't need to be anywhere. And this is more speaking like from business perspective, or like getting things done around the house. Like I'm right on time. And so that is how I am currently finding rest in motherhood. And let's just take a deep breath for a second, and just like, maybe you even need to like let out a scream if you're listening alone in the car or wherever. But this is just a really stressful time of year. And I know it's a joyful time and an exciting time, but I just feel like there's so much to do. There's so much going on. There's so many social events, and it can just feel really overwhelming. So I want to remind you to take a deep breath, or to go scream in a pillow if you need to, or do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself and your mental health. But I will jump right in. So I feel like I kind of need to go backwards before I can go forwards, and just kind of really lay out my timeline here. And I feel like I just did this recently, but things change quick. And my whole philosophy, not only in motherhood, but in life, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm looking down at my dog, who I'm recording this later in the evening, which is not my norm. And he's like, what are we still doing in the office, Mom? It's time to stop working. Anyways, my whole philosophy in life and in motherhood is really that we have to do things our own way, and we really have to follow our intuition. And even if it's not how we pictured things, or even if it's not what everyone else is doing, or even if it's not what other people expect from us, we really have to lead with our intuition. And so again, going back, I'm sure you know the origin story if you've been a longtime listener of the podcast or if you've been a longtime resting and motherhood follower. Once I had Lila, I started my sleep business because I was just so overwhelmed by the sleep noise, by all of the parenting noise. And I was so passionate about helping moms not feel the way I did in early motherhood, to feel confident, to really lean into that contact sleep, to really just lean into all of it. And I was so passionate about it. And then I went through my divorce and I continued to stay passionate about it. And then Lila grew. And all the while, I was also growing a business. So not only was I running a business, I was learning how to grow a business. I was learning the ins and outs of business. And it really was something that I was passionate about. One of my best friends in real life has my same sleep certification. And the way that we became friends is we were chatting in DMs and she was like, hey, do you think I could pay you for like a 1-hour business coaching call and you can just kind of help me? And I was not business coaching at all then. It was just something that she had seen me grow my business and my page. And she was like, teach me how. And I loved that call. And then other women have DM'd me and talked to me about how are you doing this? And it kind of became like this mini hobby of mine, even though it was my life, of kind of nerding out on building a business. At the same time, I was also really growing personally, both in my mindset, my energetic work, taking care of myself, right? And so I feel like who I am today is just such a different person than I was 5.5 years ago, a little less than 5.5 years, but 5.5 years ago when Lila was born. Completely different person than the girl who started what was actually originally Lila by Sleep I don't even know the year now, in 2020, I think it was. So 3-4 years ago, I'm a totally different person, right? And we all grow and we evolve and we change. And I talk about that a lot. We grow with our children, we evolve with our children. And so this year, if you would have told me where I would be right now at the beginning of 2024, I would have laughed at you and said, no way, not possible. But this year was just such a roller coaster of emotions, of ups, of downs, of lessons, of adventures. I had a lot of firsts this year. I went on my first solo trip without Lila, my first girls trip as a mom. I hired a business coach. There's just so many things that happened this year. And it's so funny because when you're in the journey, right, it's like day after day after day, and you don't like see these changes happening. But then all of a sudden you like get to this point and you look around and you're like, whoa, like this wasn't the path I thought I was walking. And yet here I am, right? Kind of like the bed sharing, like there's a saying like the bed sharing, I didn't choose the bed sharing life. The bed sharing life chose me, right? Like you didn't set out to bed share. It just happened. And so kind of as I've gone through this year and I've really, I'll be honest, running my business just started feeling really hard. And I couldn't pinpoint why. I couldn't pinpoint like what's different, right? Like I was doing the same things, but it just started to feel really hard. And over the summer, I really dove deep into like mindset work and manifestation and energetics. And as I continued through that process, I really realized that while I have loved supporting families with sleep, and by the way, I am still doing sleep consults for clients that I've already worked with. And occasionally I might pop into my resting and motherhood stories and say I've opened up, 3 1-hour consults for this amount of for like this week or something. I do love the sleep consults, but I had realized that it wasn't like lighting my life up the way that it had. And I want to be very clear here that I love my sleep clients. I am obsessed with them. And that's why I am choosing to continue to work with existing clients. So like if they need to book follow-up support, because I love it and it lights me up. but I just started realizing like, I want to go bigger. I want to go broader. And staying in the just sleep world, I felt like was staying safe. It was playing it safe. And so I started kind of experimenting with like, well, do I want to, like, what have I done in the last few years? I've grown really confident in motherhood. I've learned how to really thrive as a solo mom who also runs a business. And so I at the time was like, oh, I want to expand more into motherhood, right? Overall, overarching, not just sleep. And then as I kind of started down that pathway, I kind of just had this feeling of like, you know what, I think in the new year, I really want to kind of like dive into business coaching. And then there were all of these little like synchronistic moments of like, wait, why am I waiting on this? Why am I putting off a dream if it keeps calling to me, right? Because I had always kind of in the last 2 years, I kind of knew like, okay, well, I'll keep doing sleep and motherhood. And then like at some point I'll transition to business coaching because I know a lot about starting a business, building a business, growing a business, right? I know a lot about that. But it was always a distant, far off dream. And then kind of as I've progressed through this year and started realizing, you know what, I want to go bigger than sleep. Then I was like, well, maybe in the new year, I'll go into business coaching. And then, like I said, all of these synchronicities happened. I remember specifically a colleague and I were DMing and we were just kind of chatting about a similar struggle that we were having. And I just told her, like, this is how I'm approaching it. And this is kind of my mindset and what I'm doing. And she was like, oh my gosh, how can I hire you as a business coach? And she had no idea, none, that was already kind of like on the horizon for me. And then I remember going on a walk with my mom and we were just talking about, I was like, I feel like I really just want to go. Like, I really want to do business coaching. It's what's really exciting me and lighting me up. And it's what I'm passionate about now. And right soon after that conversation, I was having a conversation with my business coach and I hadn't even shared with her yet the direction that I wanted to go. And she's like, I want to bring this up. And she's like, I don't know if this is where you want to go, but I really feel like you would be such an asset as a business coach. I feel like you could really help other women who are doing what you do start or grow their businesses. And it was just kind of, like I said, all of these synchronicities all in a row where it was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it felt scary to just jump right into it. And a month in, it's been such a wild success. And I just can't even fathom how fast it all happened from when I decided to make that move to where we're at now. And it was just such an affirmation of how important it is to move in alignment, how important it is to listen to your intuition, and how important it is to be okay with changing and doing new things. And so as I started this business, my business coaching, and if you want to go follow me, you can follow me over at Brittni, Brittni, Marie Official, OFFICIAL. I had to think about the spelling there. You can go follow me over there. But as I started it, I kind of had this moment of like, okay, so what does this mean for resting in motherhood? What does this mean going forward? And so kind of essentially where I'm at is I have paused all one-on-one support for resting in motherhood, except, like I said, for clients who've already worked with me who want to book in additional support. I also just last week opened up a few one-on-one spots just because I enjoy doing them. I just realized it's not like my primary focus. And so it was kind of this moment, this crossroads moment where it's like, okay, well, where am I going to be putting my energy? Because I only have so much energy. I am a mom. I'm a solo mom. Lila is only at school 2 days a week for 3 hours each day. So my time is limited, right? My energy is limited. My energy is precious. I want to be a very present, connected mom. And now I'm starting a new business. So what does this mean for the resting and motherhood community? What does this mean going forward? And to be honest, I'm still really figuring it out. I definitely do not want to get rid of resting in motherhood. I want to be there. I want to encourage moms. I want to fight the good fight for biologically normal infants' sleep, tell parents they don't need to sleep train. But I really am still figuring out what that looks like. But one of the big things that became clear to me that I needed to kind of press pause on, and I really want to reiterate here that this is a pause, it's not a goodbye. But one of the things that I realized that I really needed to just kind of press pause on is this beloved podcast. So this episode is not a farewell, it's a see you later of just really a see you later. And I don't know when the podcast will be back, but I just know I show up here weekly sharing how I'm currently finding rest. And when I sat down and I got really real with myself, I knew that the Resting in Motherhood podcast was a ball that I needed to set down. And if you're like, why do you keep talking about balls? If you have not, last year around this time of year, I had an episode called Dropping Balls. And we just recently did it as a replay episode. So you can go back and listen to it. But it became apparent that the podcast was a ball that I needed to set down temporarily. Again, I don't know when I will be picking it back up, but I want to show up to this podcast with love and energy and excitement. And I want it to fill your life with good information. And I want it to be something that really serves you. But I also want to be a very present mom. I'm starting up a new business. I'm running 2 Instagram pages right now. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm laughing because this is a lot. I now only have 1 day without Lila during the week. Yeah, she has her 3 hours of school, but I'm trying to do all of that in this limited amount of time that I have during the week. And so I just knew that in order to not spread myself too thin, in order to show up in all of the aspects of my life, the Resting in Motherhood podcast is a ball that I'm going to set down for now. So what does this mean going forward? To be honest, I don't really know the full answer. I can't see the future. I'm riding the wave. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm really surrendering and just trusting that by following my intuition, by doing what feels right, all of the steps are just going to be laid out for me. And kind of like I said at the beginning of the episode, where it's day by day, you're making the steps and you don't realize all of the changes that are happening. You don't realize how it's all actually working out for you until you take a step back, look up, and you're like, oh, wow, this is where I ended up because I had my blinders on and I've been just trekking on the trail, walking along, and oh, wow, I ended up in this beautiful paradise, right? Without even realizing it. And so that is my hope as I just continue to trust and surrender and just lean into what is feeling right and aligned. And going forward, you can always keep up with me on my new business coaching page. If you have a business, if you're a business owner, come hang out with me there. Let's help you blow up your business together. I'm specifically focusing on mom-centered businesses. So moms who run businesses who support moms. So sleep consultants, lactation consultants, nutrition coaches, doulas. That's kind of my jam in terms of my ideal client who I help grow and expand their business. So you can always hang out with me over there. You can also hang out with me on Resting in Motherhood on my Instagram page. I'm not there as much right now as I'm just trying to get my footing and figure out how I can kind of juggle both because it is a lot. Running one Instagram page is a full-time job. So trying to figure out how to run 2 Instagram pages while also running technically 2 businesses because my courses and my workshops are still available for Resting in Motherhood. So yeah, that is where I am at. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for growing with me over this last year because I started the podcast in October of 2023. It's now December of 2024. So we made it a year. And I think this is episode 60, if I'm not wrong. So we made it 60 episodes. And I'm so thankful for this community. And I will forever be grateful for the Resting in Motherhood community. And I still am so passionate about responsive parenting, attachment parenting, not sleep training your children if you don't want to, all of it, right? But I am a growing and evolving human, and this is where I'm being called and led to, and I'm going to follow that calling. And I truly wish you nothing but the best. Like I said, this is see you later. It's not goodbye. The podcast will be back. I just need to figure out what life is going to look like, right? Like, where am I going? I think this is a really nice time too, kind of as we end the year, to just kind of like pause on a lot of fronts and just take some time to really reflect and then reboot for the new year and then see where things are. So I wish you so much love. I wish you a beautiful and happy holiday season. Again, I can't thank you enough for listening, for being here, for supporting me. Come hang out with me either on my business page or at Resting in Motherhood. Shoot me a DM. I'm still there. I still care so much about you, and I am sending you so much love. Goodbye, Resting in Motherhood fam, for now. Let's meet up next week too. Make sure to subscribe to the Resting in Motherhood podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Want to continue this conversation? Head to the show notes for this episode at restinginmotherhood.com/podcast, or connect with me on Instagram at resting_in_motherhood.